I'm about to see the future of war. The active denial system is a giant non-lethal ray gun that's designed to zap troublemakers. And I'm about to find out what that feels like.
The only thing I'm hoping for is I don't run out of here like a little sissy.
The Crusher boldly goes where no manned vehicle has gone before. It can even carry out its missions all by itself.
It's doing things that starts to get human-like.
And then there's the big one. The U.S. Army's multi-billion-dollar future combat systems will radically change the way wars are fought. I'm about to see how technology unites man and machine to create a new level of battlefield awareness using an extraordinary range of smart weapon systems. I'm Richard Mackwitz. In 10 years of service with the Navy SEALs, I never saw anything like this.
And that's why I love this job.
A mob is on the attack. It's a tactical nightmare for a soldier. He could use a water cannon, rubber bullets, or tear gas. But they've all got their limitations, and they only work at short range. They are indiscriminate and can injure, even kill. What's needed is a truly effective long-range, non-lethal weapon.
The modern battlefield is so complex that the warfighter needs options. With so much at stake, every single action they take matters.
I've come to Moody Air Force Base in Georgia. It's home to a new weapon system that claims to be non-lethal, yet devastatingly effective. Its designers say it can deter attackers without killing them. The age of the ray gun has arrived, and I'm about to step into the line of fire. The active denial system is a long-range, non-lethal weapon. It uses a beam of millimeter wave energy against the target. It causes such discomfort that you have to move away. It does not matter how big or small you are. The results are the same.
By this intense heating sensation on the surface of your skin, so that when the beam hits you, you know you've been hit, and you know you've got to stop what you're doing and move out of the area.
What's more, the ADS has tremendous range. Its target can be more than 500 yards away. This takes you well out of the range of Molotov cocktails and small handguns.
With the active denial system, you can disrupt, delay, and defuse any hostile situation without the use of deadly force.
It all sounds great, but what does this rather harmless-looking weapon actually do? Does it really have the power to neutralize a threat? Only one way to find out. Time for me to be a target.
Now, anybody who's ever worked on this thing has had to actually go inside the little box there. It is now my turn to see. The only thing I'm hoping for is I don't run out of here like a little sissy, like some of the other people I've seen.
ADS has a two-man crew. They use cameras to lock onto their target. In this case, it's me in their sights.
Here we go.
On my mark. Mark.
Stop 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's amazing. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see it. It comes out of nowhere. It's shocking, and it feels like an intense sunburn.
Definitely very, very hot. Very, very hot. Tell you what, you can definitely feel underneath the skin. You can feel the intensity of it burning through you. It starts off a little bit slow, a little gradual, then it builds right up. The skin is a little tingly right now, but I could definitely feel it right through.
Colonel John Decknick is commanding officer of the Air Force's 820th Security Forces Group.
Out of all the folks that I've seen shot with the ADS, you're the coolest cucumber walking out. That's a fact.
You've got eyes on me, and you can see me. You can hit me with that beam. If you can hit me with that beam, you definitely got my attention. I want to get the heck out of there.
This is something that we can reach out and touch somebody, and when they walk away, there's no lasting effects.
So, how does the ADS work? It transmits a narrow beam of energy at the speed of light. When the beam reaches its human target, it penetrates the skin by 1/64th of an inch. That's about the thickness of 3 sheets of paper. Within seconds, the target feels an intense heating sensation. That burning only stops when the transmitter shuts off or when he moves out of the beam.
There's a lot of water in your body. Your body's mostly made up of water. And the energy interacts with the water molecules and causes them to vibrate and heat up. And that heating and vibration activates your nerve endings, and that sends a message to your brain that you need to do something to stop the heating, and the instinctive thing to do is to move.
The the ADS uses high-frequency millimeter waves, not microwaves, so there's no risk of serious injury. The onboard computer system is also designed to cut off before any possible overexposure.
Millimeter waves have been around for quite a while. I mean, they're used for communications. They're used for some radar systems. This just happens to be a very novel way of using directed energy in the 95 gigahertz.
Is there a risk of injury?
The risk of injury is less than 0.1%. And the injury that we've seen is a very small blister that heals over, by itself with no medical intervention.
What about the eyes?
The eye blink protects the eyes, and in fact, you blink within a quarter of a second, and the system is designed in such a way that you can't put enough energy on the eyes in the time it takes someone to blink. It's a very, very robust self-protect mechanism.
In fact, you'd have to stay in the beam for quite a while before you would sustain any serious injury. Of the hundreds of volunteers that have been exposed so far, nobody has lasted more than a few seconds. Trust me, you will have to move away from the burning sensation. Okay, the ADS can get a reaction. It makes you want to move. But how accurate is it? When you're dealing with a mob, you want to be able to target the ringleaders. If there are gunmen in the crowd using people as human shields, you want to be able to pick them out without injuring unarmed bystanders. It's claimed the ADS can do this. So, time to step into the ring once more and put those claims to the test.
This is going to show how two people standing next to you will not be affected by the beam, and you will be the one to move. That gives us the option from that distance, way the heck out there, we can actually pick agitators, leaders, instigators.
So I think am I going to be the one that gets stuck in the center? There you go. So they're trying to say they can locate and identify the instigator, and for this particular thing, I guess I'm the instigator.
Operator diagnostics. On my mark. Mark.
Sure enough, I'm the only one zapped. I'd hate for the Colonel to miss out on the experience. Time to share.
I just want to share. I want to give. I want to help people out. And I figured it was only fair if I shared it.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I will tell you that I've been shot about now 11 times, and I know the feeling, and I appreciate you helping me out again on that.
What feels like the most instant, worst sunburn you've ever gotten.
I've seen hundreds of protests throughout my career, and 99% of them got, they have a right to be there, but there's 1% that turn violent, and troops get hurt, and innocents get hurt. This ADS will help us stop that from happening.
Shooting big guns is fun. Blowing things up is a blast. But the thing that excites me most about the battlefield of tomorrow are the non-lethal options, like ADS.
Next, is there any terrain that's too tough for that crusher? And later, it's taken decades of research and billions of dollars. But now I'm about to see the U.S. Army's vision of the future. The supply line to the front line is as vulnerable as it is vital.
Napoleon said, an army marches on its belly. Basically, that means an army can only go as fast as its ability to resupply. That's why those supply lines are the favorite and often the easiest targets for an opposing force.
Sticking to the roads makes it easy for the enemy to target supply vehicles. The solution is to simply make the route up as you go along, without having to worry about what's in the way. I've already seen the SMSS Squad Mission Support System. This unmanned ground vehicle is designed to provide robotic transport for light infantry forces. By carrying supplies and equipment, it reduces the soldier's fatigue, literally taking the weight off his shoulders. But at the Gascola test site in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they're pushing the UGV concept to the absolute limit of current technology. They've developed a robotic transport platform that's bigger, smarter, and tougher. They hope it will change the nature of ground supply lines forever.
I'd like to introduce you to Crusher. It's a completely autonomous vehicle that can go over any terrain, carry all the supplies you need, and never puts a man at risk. It's the smart way to take care of your troops on the battlefield of the future.
It carries up to 4 tons at a time, and it can handle just about any kind of terrain. But why is it called the Crusher?
The name The Crusher came from a video we did years ago showing the vehicle driving over cars and smashing them.
After working on the Crusher program for 2.5 years, Tony Stentz knows exactly what it can do.
The Crusher, I believe, is the most terrain-capable robot out there. There is no other robot that can drive over the types of terrain that this robot can handle.
Whether it's climbing over rocks, bulldozing its way through forest, clambering out of the trenches, or navigating up near vertical slopes, the Crusher doesn't care how rough the journey is, mainly because there's no driver to worry about. Back in 2001, robotics expert John Bears set out to create much more than just another remote-controlled vehicle.
We wanted to be able to carry a lot of payload. We wanted to be very fuel efficient. And we wanted to do it in a manner that the vehicle would be very resilient to mistakes.
If you've ever driven an SUV over rough ground, you can feel every bump. And when you hit a crater, you definitely know it. The driver of the Crusher, sitting miles away in front of a screen, has obstacle avoidance software, tilt sensors, cameras, just about everything to guide him except that gut feeling.
We have a skid plate underneath that's suspended by rubber. We have a front bumper that adds a lot of cushion. We have suspension that can move a long range so that as the vehicle goes through different kinds of rough terrain, it can survive.
Inside the mobile command unit, Chief Engineer David Stager talks me through the controls, which are so simple to use. If you've ever driven a car, even a virtual one, you can handle the Crusher.
All right, so you've got reverse, you got gas, and the old steering wheel.
Yep. Probably nothing right now.
Coming up right here, I can see that there's definitely going to be some bumps.
Yeah.
How do I determine that that's okay for that vehicle?
For this vehicle, it would have to be a really big drop-off for it not to be okay.
That's correct.
It kind of steps right over fairly rough terrain.
When you're in a vehicle, you're used to feeling it.
Yep.
And now you're just trying to take all that information basically in with your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Even with its onboard peripheral vision, driving the Crusher takes a bit of getting used to.
Probably as close as that is.
I know what you're trying to do.
I could definitely see how this would be beneficial as a reconnaissance vehicle.
Yes.
Driving this versatile vehicle is a lot of fun. But what's really amazing is that Crusher can drive itself. The Crusher uses its laser scanners right here to see what's going on directly in front of it, and the cameras to see a little bit further away. And what it does is it combines all of that information into one clear picture of what it needs to do.
This vehicle can actually drive itself over almost any terrain. And if it can't, it's smart enough to figure it out.
The Crusher is trying to get to some particular location or waypoint. It plans a path that will take it to that waypoint, and it attempts to drive that path. But when it encounters an obstacle that's in its path, then it plans an alternative route that takes it around the obstacle and to its objective.
This is robot technology that thinks for itself.
It's doing things that starts to get human-like. You see it pull up to a ditch and pause for a couple seconds. You see it back up, drive around a tree, and go around up a hillside. And you scratch your head and you say, wow, that actually was a computer doing that, not planned at all, just working through its algorithm. And that, to me, starts to where it gets to be really neat, when you start to see human-like decision-making happening.
All of this information gathering means it can do a lot more than just taking supplies to the front line.
It is possible for a Crusher to be used for a scouting mission, where it is sent out ahead of the troops to drive in a stealthy manner through the woods, through the valleys, to try to detect the enemy's location.
Given that they're hybrid electric, they can sit and watch quietly for a long, long time. And in fact, I think one of the biggest uses for one of these vehicles is simply reconnaissance. Just go and look quietly and provide data back to the ground forces.
Being unmanned allows it to operate in hazardous environments.
Crusher can go places where there might be radiation that would be too dangerous for a person to go, places where there might be biological contamination or chemical contamination. And Crusher doesn't have to be fed. It can just sit there and wait until something important happens.
The Crusher is at the very forefront of military computer technology. But like GPS and lasers before it, this incredible capability will eventually become available to the general public.
It will help us develop autonomous vehicles that drive themselves that ordinary people will use. We can sit back and read the newspaper as the cars drive themselves.
It's expected to be fielded within 10 years. After that, the possibilities are endless.
The Crusher is a dynamic system that can perform reconnaissance, resupply, medevac, and even direct action missions. It is a smart, versatile weapon for the battlefield of tomorrow.
Next, the technology revolution will shape the nature of war for decades to come.
This is a defining moment for the United States Army.
Its name is Future Combat Systems. On Future Weapons, I've been tracking down the very latest in weapons technology. I've been dazzled by amazing innovations and the sheer breakneck speed of change. But what I'm about to show you goes way beyond anything I thought was possible. It's not just a weapon, not even a weapons system. It's a whole new battlefield concept built from the ground up, based on the very latest technology and software design. It's the basis of U.S. military thinking for decades to come. In fact, this is nothing less than an evolutionary leap onto tomorrow's battlefield.
The U.S. Army is leading the way by transforming into a faster, more agile force with increased lethality and a superior understanding of what's happening on the battlefield through an incredible digital network. It's called Future Combat Systems, or FCS, and it's here today.
Also here today, in the deserts of New Mexico, are some of the military's highest-ranking VIPs and top brass. They've come to see a first-time demonstration of the FCS concept, or at least a fraction of it. And the ideal location for such a significant event is White Sands, the missile range where the Army have been testing top-secret weapon systems for decades. The basis of FCS is that each and every part of the combat force is networked to share information.
In history, this is the largest program I think the Army has for sure ever had.
It brings together the very best of military hardware, from familiar systems with proven track records to prototypes that have to be seen to be believed.
This is a defining moment for the United States Army.
It uses advanced artificial intelligence to enhance tactical command decisions.
It is the Army's single most important development program for the 21st century.
And at its core is a new, lightweight, highly mobile fighting force.
Future Combat System equipped brigade combat team is going to be capable of controlling almost 3 times the area that a current brigade combat team can control.
The buzzword principle for Future Combat Systems is synergy. Every piece talking to every other piece on the battlefield, and that has never happened before.
FCS brings together a whole new generation of highly mobile and lightweight networked vehicles, UAVs, robots, and weapons that can fly to any hotspot on the planet fast. It means fewer men are put to better use to create a much more efficient and unified fighting force.
Because of the robotics and because of the other sensors and technologies, we can free soldiers up from doing other tasks and get them to doing tasks that we know we're going to need in the force of the future.
It's a highly ambitious and expensive project, so as you can imagine, it goes all the way to the top.
As the head of the Army, I have the fundamental responsibility to both provide for the short term and the long term in a balanced way.
Until early 2007, Dr. Francis J. Harvey was the Secretary of the U.S. Army. With more than 20 major defense programs under his belt, from undersea to outer space, he helped define the FCS program from the outset.
We are taking the current force and slowly but methodically transitioning that and maturing it into the future force, which will be centered around the Future Combat System Brigade Combat Team.
I witnessed the first example of this kind of synergy when the Land Warrior soldier was digitally connected to the Army's new Stryker vehicles.
The Stryker brigades right now are giving us a clear insight into what FCS will be. Admittedly, Strykers are but an interim step that have significant limitations in terms of where we want to go in the long run, but they're an enormous improvement over our old stuff.
Even on this relatively small scale, I was surprised to see how efficiently information was shared, increasing everyone's battlefield awareness.
That ability is worth the extra 10 pounds that we carry around. Absolutely.
Now, it takes the commander's intent and pushes it all the way down to the lowest level.
The success of this combination was just the beginning. Now the FCS program has the green light. The massive resources of the U.S. defense industry have been thrown together to turn concept into reality.
Today we have more than 600 companies working on the program, about 6,000 people spread across 42 different states, and our job is to pull them together, to integrate them, and to bring that best technology back to our soldiers.
Coming up, some of the incredible prototypes of Future Combat Systems. I get to see them in action and even try out a few for myself. Future Combat Systems is the U.S. Army's amazingly ambitious plan to unite soldiers, weapons, and support systems to provide the warfighter with the capability to deal with practically anything. As we're about to see, that technology is now ready to be tested in the field for the very first time. But first, I take a close look at some of the mind-blowing military hardware that will distinguish FCS from any other attack force the world has ever seen. The pawns in this deadly chess game are the smallest pieces, a multitude of specialist sensors. They are the eyes and ears of the network.
On the battlefield of tomorrow, someone will always be listening. This, hidden in here, it's called TUGS. Very simple. Tactical, unattended ground sensor. It is the ears of the battlefield commander in the future.
This is designed to be remotely deployed from air vehicles. So this will be launched from UAVs, rotary fixed-wing aircraft. It's designed to be aerostable. It would hit the ground and penetrate the ground and bury itself. You don't even have to have a soldier go out and place the thing.
Once in place, this device literally has its ear to the ground. But it does more than just listen.
Well, there's a number of sensors embedded in here. We have an acoustic array, we have a seismic geophone, we actually have a magnetic sensor, and all those sensors work together to detect, track, and classify targets.
Can this system actually hear our conversation?
No, it's designed primarily or specifically to detect and track vehicles, not voice.
But if I was walking through here, it would be able to recognize that I'm walking through.
Yes, it would detect your seismic energy.
Does it know whether I have a weapon or not?
It can tell that by using a magnetic sensor built in within the system.
TUGS gives you a pretty good understanding of what's happening in the battle space, but there are times when a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's when you rely on an EO sensor.
If this optical sensor detects any motion within its range, it tracks it and takes a picture.
What will come through to an operator is an indication that there is a contact and a picture of it. And the best way that we have still of identifying is allowing a knowledgeable person, like a soldier, to look at a picture. And by looking at that picture, then essentially you have eyes on target. But because of the network, those eyes could be hundreds of miles from where the actual target is.
But some of the sensors aren't quite so passive. I've already seen the intelligent munition system, which doesn't just detect enemy vehicles or personnel, but actually launches counterattacks all by itself.
And it's so smart that it knows exactly what kind of vehicle is moving through its kill zone. It has the firepower and range to reach out and take it.
So far, all of these sensors are designed to work unattended, but there are plenty of times when a soldier needs direct control.
This cute little guy right here is SUG-D, Small Unmanned Ground Vehicle. It's a man-portable robot that goes and does reconnaissance missions. You can send him into harm's way and keep your soldiers safe. Good job.
Its extendable sensor head can zoom, see in low light, and even includes infrared thermal imaging.
The soldier will be able to use the SUG-V to see in total darkness and see through smoke and obscurance in the battlefield. When the final SUG-V is delivered, it will be able to withstand 300 or 400 G shock. It can fall down 2 or 3 flights of stairs and be fully capable of continuing its full operations.
How do you see it being deployed with future combat systems?
Well, it's really the soldier's robot. So the soldier carries it into the field of battle. And since it's so small and lightweight, the soldier can carry it on his back in a molly pack. When they get to a situation where there could be some bad guys or a dangerous situation, the soldier can take it out of his backpack, turn it on, drive it in there to see what's going on.
But one of their most astonishing sensors has one trick that leaves the others grounded.
If you're in an urban environment and all hell has broken loose and you can't see what's in front of you, that may be the perfect time to get a new perspective. This is the prototype Class 1 UAV. It gives you a bird's eye view with instant information so that you can take appropriate action. It's lightweight, man-portable, it has day and night optics, and it can hover right over the target.
This is new technology. There weren't the computers in the past to make sure that the vehicle would fly.
It took years of R&D to allow such a small craft to remain stable enough to hover continuously. Now they've cracked it, and the plan is for each 40-man platoon to have one.
The real advantage with this UAV is it can hover and stare right at its target.
The information that Class 1 UAV will provide is near real-time video to an individual soldier. He'll be able to gather intelligence without exposing himself and his fellow soldiers to danger.
In the heat of combat, a soldier has more important things to think about than flying a remote probe. So, the Class 1 UAV does most of the work automatically. Simply enter a flight plan with GPS coordinates, and it does the rest.
All he has to do is tell the vehicle to launch. It launches on its own, and then it'll go on that flight path. And it'll return to a land spot, and he puts in a land command, and it'll land on its own.
At any time, the operator can interrupt the flight plan and take over manually as soon as he spots something he wants to take a closer look at.
If they want to look at the corner of a building, they can zoom in on that corner. If they want to look at the entire rooftop to see who's there, they can do that. It has the ability to sit wherever you want it to be, stay in that location, and look at one point continuously.
A well-trained soldier can get this little eye in the sky out of his pack, ready to go, and in the air in less than 5 minutes.
This micro air vehicle flies up to 500 feet with a top speed of around 50 miles an hour. But what if you need to go further and faster? Coming up, we've gathered the intel. Now, time to see the incredible firepower that kicks into action. The Fire Scout unmanned helicopter extends the range of the soldier on the front line by more than 100 miles. It's fully armed, it flies autonomously, and it means the Future Combat Systems ground squad has airstrike capability.
From Army perspective, they need to control their own assets. When you are in combat, you need it right there and then, and you can't wait to call something in.
Flying up to 20,000 feet, it's almost silent, so it's perfect for covert reconnaissance. It can be used to bring vital supplies to the furthest reaches of the battlefield. Fire Scout, like all the larger pieces in the FCS force, acts as a node in the network, carrying most of the processing power and relaying the digital information.
It brings the whole package together because it can provide that ground commander that eye in the sky, that communications in the sky, so that he can play his chess pieces to bring the game.
But there's no question that in the future combat scenario, the master of air cavalry is the mighty Apache attack helicopter.
Anybody who knows anything about the military knows that the Apache is a killer bird of prey. And once it's connected to Future Combat Systems, nothing will escape its grasp.
Although the Apache has been around since the 1980s, the Army's Longbow variant is a completely modernized reworking of the original, making it the most lethal multi-mission helicopter in the world.
If you're covering a lot of ground very fast, you don't know what's going to be over the next ridge. With Future Combat Systems, that information becomes available so I can get into a position to affect the battlefield. And the missions can change en route, and the battlefield changes. That information can be sent to the aircraft, and the aircraft then can react to that changing battlefield condition.
Even the future combat kings of battle, the artillery pieces are smart. But best of all, they're lightweight. Future weapons favorites like the Enlos cannon have been specifically designed to be more mobile than traditional mortars and howitzers. 23 tons might sound like a lot, but compared to the heavyweight 70-ton Abrams tank, the Enlos cannon is practically a featherweight. And the Enlos LS is even easier to transport. Its rockets are launched from a box that's small enough to go on the back of the truck. But let's not forget the most important component of all in this scenario, the one around which the entire future combat system has been designed. That's the soldier on the ground. FCS is constantly evolving the soldier's capability by integrating the kit he wears.
Well, the future combat system provides our soldiers unbelievable situational awareness on today's battlefield and the battlefields of the future.
Currently, we base every single mission we have off of communications. And now we can spread out, cover more area, and still have communications with everybody.
These soldiers will be able to know where they are, where the enemy is, and where their buddies are.
He is plugged into the network via the Future Force Warrior, a complete communications package incorporated into his uniform.
Now, when you get all that kind of information at your fingertips, does that make it easier for you to do your job, or is it too much information?
Well, no. With part of the software issues they're working on right now is placing in filters, so you don't get information overload and you get what you need when you need it.
What's the coolest thing about this gear?
It's comfortable.
I've heard the theory, I've seen the hardware. Now I can't wait to see these elements fused together into the ultimate unified fighting force. Coming up, future combat systems in action. I've been looking at a revolution in military strategy called future combat systems. Now it's time to see some of the pieces working together. FCS will enable a 40-man platoon to become a more efficient fighting force, capable of handling missions no other unit this size could have attempted before.
The end goal of future combat systems is to create an all-seeing, all-knowing warrior who's capable of handling any mission on the battlefield.
Here at White Sands, under the scrutinizing glare of the military's top brass, these men are about to take part in a full-scale exercise designed to test the system that the U.S. Army has already fully committed to. This hot zone is a cluster of buildings. It's supposed to be sparsely populated, and normally it would take 100 men or more to secure this area. Today, just a handful of soldiers will do the exact same job. To get an overview of the situation, the first thing to do is to launch the Class 1 UAV. This immediately reveals the scale and layout of the whole area, and these images can be seen by every man in the platoon, the commander, even the White House, if necessary. From the air, the immediate area looks clear, but the men still have to secure it. To make sure their path is safe, the SUG-V comes into play to check for booby traps, people hiding out, or any other hidden dangers. If it checks out, this truck will offer a limited amount of cover. It looks okay, and as the platoon moves into position, my role is to take the SUG-V inside the buildings.
I've got cover right here, I'm safe. But inside that building, I don't know what's in there, and we gotta go in there and make sure that place is secure. The beautiful thing now is I have the luxury of time. I'm safe behind cover, and I can clearly see what's happening inside that room without putting myself at risk. I got a wide-angle lens, I've got thermal imagery, and right now, based on that, I can clearly see there's a booby trap wire right there. Navigate it around, no problem. Coming around the back end, if I want to check it out real quick before I go in that area, I just turn the camera's head. I'm on the other side of the threat. Looks like there's a bunch of boxes and garbage on the ground. Give myself a little more elevation and lock myself in position a little bit better. And that is an anti-personnel mine. So if I were to trip that wire coming through that room, I'd be finished.
As it is, the rest of my platoon now knows exactly where the booby trap is in advance.
Now I've raised the camera very high. I can clearly see what's on the desk. Looks like maps, things that would be of interest as far as intel. And I'm able to search everything and take my time and not risk any of my other guys in doing this.
But I know that in warfare, you can't afford to drop your guard. Near the perimeter of the complex, the sensor field dropped earlier has picked up some movement. An enemy vehicle. There's no need to divert any men because the intelligent munitions system has already identified it as hostile, and the human operator has given it the go-ahead to respond. Threat removed. At the same time, the little UAV has spotted another threat approaching, and this time, there's no IMS to take care of it. There's no fire scout in the area either, and the nearest Apache is busy tracking another possible target miles away. The enemy vehicle is getting a bit too close for comfort, and the platoon leader has decided what to do. The quickest response will be to dial up an NLOS launch system strike. This multi-warhead missile launcher was placed here many miles away a few days earlier. Since then, it's been in constant radio contact, just waiting for the call. It receives the approximate coordinates and launches one of its 15 missiles. This can identify and home in on the target by comparing the image from its nose camera against its onboard picture library. It finds it, locks in, and takes it out. With the danger removed, my platoon is about to enter the building when my SUG-V's thermal imaging picks out something suspicious.
Looks like I've actually seen somebody trying to hide in a locker there. I'm gonna check him out real quick.
Now, I've had a better look at him. I can see he's an enemy soldier, but he's unarmed and alone.
He's there. Oh, he splits.
My platoon knows the exact degree of threat and can easily take it. That's as far as this trial run goes today, but it's already shown the networking possibilities that FCS offers. Today's exercise is part of a massive ongoing Army development program that will continue for the next decade and beyond. It's an opportunity to get valuable feedback from the people that it's all about, the soldier.
The military's job is to adapt, improvise, and overcome. With the incredibly vast and varied missions U.S. forces are going to face in the future, the time has come to reimagine how that force will be created.
So instead of me build something and then, okay, soldier, now figure out how to use it, it's, I want you part of the design development phase. So I'll give it to you, we call them experiments. And that's what you're seeing today.
Now this is exciting because what we've done is we've gone from something that was on paper, a concept, and we've turned it into something real. And soon it will be in the hands of our soldiers in the field.